What do you think happens when a black girl walks into a school full of privileged faces? No scandal, no drama. She just wants to graduate quietly. But from the very first step, every stare says, "You don't belong here." No one at Westbridge Academy knows that this girl once put 3 teenage boys in the hospital with nothing but her bare hands, that she once swore she would never lose control again. But what happens when the school's queen bee decides to make her a public target? This is not a story about violence. This is a story about choice, about where true strength comes from, and how it can silence an entire crowd. Stay until the end, because the moment no punches are thrown is the moment the entire school bows its head. Please like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to update our latest videos. Morning sunlight streamed softly through the trees, lining the glossy black gates of Westbridge Academy, a prestigious private school where only the wealthy, the influential, or the well-connected found a way in. Amid the stream of luxury cars gliding past the stone-paved entrance, an old silver sedan rolled to a stop at the front gate. The door opened. 17-year-old Talia Brooks, a black girl, stepped out with a worn-out backpack and a quiet, steady gaze. No makeup, no designer shoes, no friends by her side, just a calm confidence wrapped around her like invisible armor. Talia paused in front of the sign, "Westbridge Academy, where legacy begins." She took a deep breath, tightened the straps on her backpack, and walked in. The camera slowly swept past the mahogany-paneled hallways, silent classroom doors, and polished locker rows. Everything exuding tradition, money, and a chilling kind of perfection. Other students, in crisp uniforms, spotless shoes, AirPods tucked in, turned their heads, their eyes scanning Talia like she was a misplaced piece in a puzzle they knew by heart. At one corner, a group of students laughing suddenly went quiet as Talia passed. They didn't say anything, just exchanged glances. The shot lingered on Talia's eyes, steady but not without doubt. "Just get through this year," her inner voice whispered. "I don't need to stand out. I just need to graduate." But at Westbridge, the quiet presence of someone like Talia, brilliant, silent, and outside their glittering world, was already an unspoken challenge. She didn't know it yet, but from that first step, the balance of power had begun to shift. First period, Modern American History, Room 204. Talia walked into class. Every head turned, but it wasn't curiosity in their eyes. It was something colder, quieter, the kind of stare that doesn't speak, but still cuts like a blade. The only empty seat was in the back. She walked to it, set her bag down, pulled out the chair. The scrape of metal against the floor echoed through the awkward silence. In the center row, a girl with platinum blonde hair sat with legs crossed and crimson-painted nails. Her eyes locked onto Talia, Savannah Kerrigan. Even as a new student, Talia had already heard the name whispered during orientation. Daughter of a state senator, student council president, founder of the charity club, captain of the cheer squad, the textbook definition of a school queen. But what made Savannah unforgettable wasn't the titles. It was her eyes, cold, calculating, as if Talia had dragged something filthy into a room Savannah believed she owned. "She's not smiling, but her whole face is laughing at me," Talia thought, forcing her eyes up to the whiteboard. Beside Savannah sat 2 other girls, Jade Winters and Chloe Stone, who leaned in, whispering loud enough for everyone to hear. "Must be a scholarship." "Yeah, one of those diversity program cases." A few soft giggles followed. Talia didn't turn around, didn't flinch. She just took notes like nothing had happened. But Savannah never looked away. She didn't need to speak. That stare said it all. This is my territory, and you don't get to exist here without paying for it. Talia bit her lip, not out of fear, but because she'd seen this before, in Chicago, at her old school, and she knew if she walked away now, she'd never get another shot at peace. She looked up, and for the first time her eyes met Savannah's. No words, no gestures, just two worlds colliding in total silence. That afternoon, in the stone-paved courtyard of Westbridge, the school's self-proclaimed solar system gathered around the large granite table beneath the shade of maple trees. Savannah Kerrigan sat at the center, a queen in every sense. Sunglasses on, mint smoothie in hand, legs elegantly crossed. Jade and Chloe were chatting about the upcoming fall festival, but Savannah wasn't listening to a word. Her eyes were locked across the courtyard on Talia Brooks, who was quietly eating lunch alone by the fence. No one sat with her, no one spoke to her. Just a worn book in her hands and a homemade lunchbox by her side. She's different, Savannah muttered, narrowing her eyes. Jade frowned. What do you mean? Savannah slid her sunglasses down, her voice cold as steel. She's not trying to get noticed, but she's also not afraid to be alone. Chloe burst out laughing. Maybe she doesn't know the unspoken rules here, or she's playing dumb to stay out of trouble. Savannah didn't laugh. She straightened, leaning forward on the table. Number, this isn't ignorance. This is defiance. A silent kind of defiance. And I don't like it. A strange stillness fell over the table. Savannah Kerrigan had never let anyone different last long on her turf. There was that Asian girl from New Jersey who slipped in the gym and left with a fractured arm. Before that, the trans student, who dropped out after just 2 weeks when old messages were leaked onto the school forum. Talia wouldn't be the exception. Savannah sipped her smoothie, still staring at that quiet figure across the courtyard. I think it's time someone taught her a few lessons about how things work around here. Otherwise, people will start thinking they can just show up and stay, without asking. That last sentence dripped with venom. Jade and Chloe laughed out loud. Not far from them, across the courtyard, Talia looked up. She hadn't heard the words, but she felt it. She could feel the eyes of a predator. The next day, as Talia Brooks walked into her history class, she could feel something had changed. Not in the air, but in the eyes. She placed her bag on the desk. Her seatmate from yesterday, a brunette girl named Michelle, suddenly moved to another desk without saying a word. Behind her, whispers began to rise, like a trail of toxic smoke spreading through the room. No one said Talia's name, but the words were clear enough. I heard she got expelled from her old school. The reason's kinda sketchy. Some fight or something. Yeah, seems like the type who snaps. No one looked her in the eyes, but Talia knew. It wasn't distraction, it was intentional isolation. That lunch period, when Talia stepped into the cafeteria, every familiar seat seemed to have been claimed. She placed her tray down at an empty table. But within seconds, a group approached. Jade, ice in her voice. Sorry, that's our table. Talia smiled politely, picked up her tray and moved on. But the next table was the same, and the next. Eventually, she sat near the emergency exit next to the trash bin. A spot no one wanted. Days later, it escalated. While unlocking her locker, a folded note fluttered out. She opened it. This girl looks like a background character in a prison documentary. No signature, but the sharp red ink said enough. And the giggles from Jade, Chloe, and a few boys at the end of the hall didn't need a confession. She brushed shoulders with someone in the hallway, an accident. But the look Savannah shot her was as if Talia had offended royalty. Savannah raised an eyebrow. Careful, around here, every bump comes with a price. The wounds didn't leave marks on her skin, but Talia could feel them, every pinprick piercing the peace she fought so hard to preserve. She didn't lash out, didn't beg, didn't walk away. She simply looked into the mirror each morning and reminded herself, I didn't come here to be afraid. I came here to be myself. But even resilience has its limits. Talia Brooks continued walking through the halls of Westbridge with her back straight and a calm gaze. No comebacks, no angry expressions. She stayed silent, and somehow that silence made things even more uncomfortable. Savannah Kerrigan noticed. At first, she thought Talia would fold soon. Like every other prey, either fade away quietly, break down in tears, or beg for mercy. But Talia did none of that. No reaction to the rumors. No words when shoulders slammed her in the hallway. No tears when they laughed behind her back. She just kept walking, kept picking herself up, and kept learning. In Savannah's mind, that silence wasn't weakness. It was a blatant challenge. Does this girl think she's better than everyone? Or is she trying to play the righteous act to win the teachers over? Let's see how long she holds out. Savannah couldn't stand anyone making her power feel invisible, and Talia, with nothing but quiet composure, was doing exactly that. One afternoon in literature class, the teacher assigned students to small discussion groups. Talia walked toward an empty table to form her own, but Jade Winters looked straight at her, then turned to the others. Jade, mocking, "Oh, sorry, this group's full." No one added a word, no one invited her. Talia turned away and sat alone with her book open. She wasn't angry, but her eyes, direct, still, silent, were starting to unnerve her bullies. Chloe Stone, Savannah's usual shadow, whispered in the locker room, "She gives me the chills. The way she looks. It's like she's waiting for something to happen." Savannah scoffed, "No, she's hiding something, and I'm going to be the one to drag it out into the light." And from that moment, the game changed. No more petty pranks or hallway whispers. Savannah wanted to break Talia's silence, because she understood one truth better than anyone. Someone who doesn't flinch in the dark is the one to be feared most. Friday noon, the Westbridge Academy cafeteria was as packed as ever. Students jostled for tables, laughter and chatter echoed across the space. But today something was different, something quietly orchestrated, designed for public humiliation. Talia Brooks walked in, lunch tray in hand. She wore a simple ash-gray sweater, hair tied up neatly, her gaze calm as always. She headed to her usual spot, a quiet table near the window. At the opposite end of the room, Savannah Kerrigan sat poised, one hand holding a glass of orange juice, lips curled into a faint smirk. Jade Winters and Chloe Stone giggled quietly beside her. Logan Kerrigan sat with arms crossed, eyes glued to his phone. Ryder Blake glanced toward Talia, a look that said he was waiting for a show. Talia sat down, and then, swoosh! The orange juice flew, a perfect arc from Savannah's table, crashing down onto Talia's tray, splashing across her sweater and soaking the table. A large droplet slid from her hair to her cheek. 1 second of silence, then laughter exploded like fireworks. "Oh no, someone needed a bath." Chloe burst out. "Orange really suits you," Ryder chimed in. Savannah leaned back in her chair, clapping slowly. "Oops, my hand slipped," she said, masking her malice behind a sweet tone. But Talia said nothing. She slowly stood up, silently pulled tissues from her sweater pocket, wiped her hands, wiped the table. No eye contact, no tears, no reaction. She gathered her tray, the crumpled lunch, the fallen milk carton on the floor. Then she walked, calmly, past the sneering faces, through the tension of a crowd expecting a meltdown. But what they got was a silence that chilled the room. A 10th grade student nearby stopped eating. Another girl mid-laugh fell abruptly quiet. "She's not angry?" someone whispered. In that instant, the power in the room shifted. No one felt like it had been just a joke anymore. Even Savannah, still grinning out of habit, felt a cold shiver crawl up her spine. Talia exited the cafeteria. The midday sun poured down the quiet hallway. She walked as if she had never been humiliated, as if she knew something the others had yet to understand. A storm was gathering, and Talia was its calm, silent eye. Night had fallen over the quiet neighborhood, far from the gilded walls of Westbridge Academy. In a small third-floor apartment, the soft yellow glow of the kitchen light cast shadows of a father and daughter on the worn tile floor. Talia sat silently at the dinner table, her hair draped over part of her face as she stared down at a glass of water gone cold. Across from her sat her father, Darnell Brooks, a former state boxing champion, now a coach at a local gym. He didn't speak right away. He simply looked at his daughter, eyes steady and thoughtful, and then gently said, "Something happened at school, didn't it?" Talia was quiet for a few seconds. She set the glass down and spoke, her voice rough. I tried not to draw attention. I just wanted to finish senior year in peace." A sigh escaped her chest. "But you know, Dad, there are people who don't need a reason to hate you. Savannah Kerrigan is one of them." Darnell nodded slowly. He didn't interrupt. His eyes that once read opponents in the ring, were now reading the pain his daughter was trying to hide. Talia continued, and for the first time since transferring schools, her voice trembled. I'm about to lose control, like 2 years ago." The air in the room seemed to freeze. Darnell straightened in his chair, his muscular arms resting on the table, but his gaze remained gentle. "You've come a long way since then, Talia, but I'm not going to pretend you're weak. I know you're strong. Too strong to keep bowing your head." A beat of silence. Then he spoke again, voice low and steady. "You didn't start this fight, but maybe you're the one who has to end it." Talia looked up. Her eyes began to glow, not with anger, but with a quiet fire, controlled and deep. For the first time in days, she didn't feel alone. As Talia stood to head upstairs, Darnell called out after her, "And one more thing, baby girl, remember, the strongest punch isn't the first one. It's the one that makes sure they never try it again." In the stillness of the night, a warrior had been awakened. The next morning, the halls of Westbridge Academy gleamed with their usual order and perfection. Talia walked into school looking composed, grey jacket, tidy backpack, classical music playing softly through her earbuds. But inside her, her father's words from the night before were still pounding like war drums. As she opened her locker, something fell and slid down to her feet. A folded piece of paper. She bent down and opened it, just 7 words, written in feminine but unmistakably provocative handwriting. 3 p.m. behind the gym. Don't show, and everyone will know you're just a scared little rabbit. No signature, none needed. Talia didn't have to guess. Savannah Kerrigan had made it official. She stared at the message for a long moment, expression unreadable. But strangely, for the first time, Talia didn't feel fear. Not because she forgot who she was up against, but because she was ready. Throughout the school day, rumors spread like wildfire. "You hear?" Savannah called the new girl out behind the gym. 3 o'clock today. It's gonna be wild. Talia's actually gonna show up. No way. The whispers, the curious stares, the half-smirks swirled around her like a storm preparing to strike. But Talia just walked straight ahead. No lowered gaze, no hesitation. Even Savannah, perched confidently in the center of the cafeteria, flanked by Jade, Chloe, Ryder, and Logan, furrowed her brows in confusion. Her opponent wasn't flinching, wasn't cracking. Let's see how long that silence lasts once she's on the ground. Savannah muttered, gripping her soda can just a little too tightly. The afternoon wore on. The clock inched toward 3 p.m., and the game of power was about to reach its turning point. 2:50 p.m. The final school bell rang like the crack of a starting gun. Students poured into the hallways of Westbridge, but today few were in a hurry to leave. Glances were exchanged, excited, electric, as if the whole school was waiting for a performance. Only no one dared say it aloud. At the far end of the third-floor corridor, where sunlight slanted through the windows in pale streaks, Talia Brooks stood quietly in front of her locker. Not a trace of fear, not a hint of hesitation. Just silence, and a resolve cold as steel. The sharp click of heels echoed behind her. A slow, deliberate laugh sliced through the air like a razor. Savannah Kerrigan. She strode forward, golden curls perfectly curled, her uniform skirt tailored to royalty. Flanking her on either side, Jade Winters and Chloe Stone, silent shadows trailing the queen. Talia turned around. For one charged moment, their eyes met, two opposite poles bracing for collision. Savannah arched an eyebrow, her smirk dripping with scorn. "Oh, you're actually coming. I thought you'd be hiding behind your daddy's skirt." The hallway froze. A few distant chuckles broke the tension. Talia didn't blink. She took one step forward, her voice low but clear. "I'll be there." 5 words, no yelling, no threats, and the entire hallway went silent, like someone had cut the air supply. Savannah stood still. For the first time, there was a flicker of uncertainty in her eyes. As if, despite all her planning, she hadn't accounted for this kind of calm, this kind of quiet power. "Good," Savannah said through clenched teeth. "Hope you've got enough backbone to still be standing by the end." She turned on her heel, heels tapping sharply as she walked away. Talia said nothing. She simply tightened the strap on her backpack and drew a long breath. The battlefield had been chosen. The masks were off, and there was no turning back. 3 p.m. Behind the Westbridge Academy gym, a wide cement courtyard, hidden from the eyes of school monitors, a place long known as the unofficial arena for covert acts of bullying. Today it was different. Nearly 50 students had gathered early, clustered in groups like spectators awaiting a live show. Some had their phones out, already live streaming, eager eyes, mocking grins, but also silent faces, glancing at one another with unspoken tension. At the center of it all stood Savannah Kerrigan, arms crossed, a cold, smug smile curling her lips. She was a queen on her stage, surrounded by her loyal court, Jade Winters, eyes brimming with ridicule. Chloe Stone constantly glancing around to make sure everyone was recording. Ryder Blake, the brute, cracking his knuckles like he was ready to hit someone just for fun. And to the right, Logan Kerrigan, Savannah's younger brother, football team captain, tall, built, radiating arrogant confidence. Savannah checked her watch, smirking. 3 minutes left. Guess the little rabbit got scared. Just then, footsteps echoed down the corridor. Talia Brooks appeared. She didn't bow her head, didn't slow her pace, didn't back down. She dropped her backpack by the wall, hair tied back, uniform crisp, expression calm to the point of chilling. The entire courtyard turned. A few held their breath. Savannah narrowed her eyes. "You actually came," she said, enunciating every word. Talia nodded, her reply simple. "I don't like being threatened." The air tightened, a string drawn taut, ready to snap. Logan rolled his shoulders and stepped forward, a crooked grin on his face. "If my sister won't handle you, I'll do it for her. 30 seconds tops." Savannah didn't stop him. Jade whistled. Chloe laughed out loud. Talia shifted her weight, just slightly. Barely a blink. She had walked straight into their trap. But what none of them knew was this. The prey they imagined was holding the knife. Logan Kerrigan stepped into the center of the courtyard with the swagger of an athlete who had grown far too used to winning. He towered over Talia by at least a head, his muscles bulging under his athletic shirt. Cheers erupted from the students crowded around. "Wipe the floor with her, Logan. Don't hold back." Savannah stood off to the side, arms folded, eyes gleaming with triumphant fire. This was the opening act she had long prepared, a public humiliation designed to wipe the name Talia Brooks off the map for good. Logan tilted his head at Talia, giving her a crooked grin. "Don't worry, sweetheart. I'll go easy. Wouldn't want to hurt the new girl, right?" Talia didn't answer. She simply adjusted the cuff of her sleeve. A simple gesture, but to Logan it was an insult. "Oh, you got attitude, huh?" Logan growled, then charged fast and heavy, like thunder rolling in. And in the very next second, everything shattered. Talia didn't back away. She shifted to her left, dodging Logan's storm force punch with ease, pivoted her hips, and deflected his arm aside with sharp precision. In a flash, Logan lost balance. And before he could recover, Talia spun around, hooked his leg, and gave his shoulder a controlled shove. Thud. Logan Kerrigan hit the ground, flat on his back, in full view of everyone. The courtyard went silent, dead silent. No one made a sound. No one could even comprehend what had just happened. Chloe froze, nearly dropping her phone. Jade stood there, mouth wide open. Ryder squinted, unable to believe what he'd just seen. And Savannah was stunned into complete stillness. Talia stepped back calmly, not even breathing hard. She looked down at Logan, now scrambling up on shaky arms, his face burning red with rage and shame. Her voice was clear, measured, and unwavering. "I don't like fighting," she said, "but I know how to finish one. If I have to." The first shockwave had just struck Westbridge, and this was only the beginning. The air had just begun to settle after Logan Kerrigan's fall, when Ryder Blake, hot-headed and always looking to prove himself, couldn't take it any longer. "What the hell just happened?" he roared. Without waiting for a signal from Savannah, Ryder charged like a provoked animal. He lunged straight at Talia, fist clenched, ready to strike. "Enough," a few students shouted, but it was too late. Talia merely tilted her head, her gaze still calm. Ryder swung, but just like Logan before him, he hit nothing but air. Talia lowered her center of gravity, turned smoothly, and before Ryder could process what was happening, her hand gripped his wrist, flowing like water. Snap! Ryder was locked, forced to his knees, groaning in pain. Talia didn't break a sweat. She held Ryder down with one hand, her expression not angry, just composed. "I don't want to hurt you," she said, voice as soft as a breeze. but I'm not going to sit still and be attacked. Ryder thrashed, his face flushed red, but he couldn't break free. His towering frame and brute strength were useless against Talia Brooks' ruthless precision. All around them, the crowd of students stood in total silence. A few began lowering their phones that had been filming. Jade whispered, "Who is she?" Savannah Kerrigan clenched her jaw. Both Logan and Ryder, her aces, had failed. And worse, no one was laughing anymore. Talia released Ryder slowly, letting him crawl away, not daring to meet anyone's eyes. She simply stood there, back straight, the wind brushing gently through her black curls. An opponent no one saw coming, a wave no one could stop. Savannah Kerrigan had never been humiliated like this. She stood there in the center of a circle of students, watching her two most loyal enforcers taken down in utter silence. No more laughter, no more cheering. Only Talia Brooks, the girl Savannah had thought was just a helpless bunny this morning, now standing firm in the middle of the courtyard like an unshakable mountain. "Who do you think you are?" Savannah screamed, her high heels screeching across the cement as she charged from behind Talia, a glass water bottle gripped tightly in her hand. Snatched from someone nearby. Talia hadn't turned around. Savannah raised the bottle high, sunlight catching the glass, casting a cold glint across the scene. But at that very moment, wham! The bottle clattered to the ground, rolling away. Savannah's entire body was lifted off the ground, her arms locked behind her in a swift, brutal takedown. Talia had stopped the attack without even turning, as if she'd seen this exact kind of move 1,000 times before. The courtyard fell silent. Savannah struggled wildly, but it was useless. "Let me go. She's crazy. Did you see that? She's attacking me," she shrieked in panic. No one responded. No one stepped in. Jade and Chloe backed away. Logan stared at the ground. Ryder was still clutching his arm, unable to get up. Talia leaned in slightly, her voice low, but echoing like a bell in the taut silence. "You're not the first to come at me from behind, but maybe you'll be the last." Then she released her. Savannah collapsed to the ground, hair a mess, lips trembling. No one came to help her. No one dared touch her. Talia stepped back, her expression calm, not a trace of anger on her face. "I didn't come here to fight," she said aloud, her voice carrying across the courtyard. "I came here to end this." Savannah Kerrigan sat on the back courtyard of Westbridge, hair disheveled, trembling hands gripping the wrinkled hem of her school uniform. She had once been the uncrowned queen of this school, but now no one stood behind her. Talia Brooks stood across from her, not a drop of sweat, not a single insult, not one more strike. Only that gaze, calm, steady, as if she had just freed herself from an invisible shackle. Talia leaned down and quietly said, "I don't need to humiliate you, because you just did that yourself. I don't need to hit you, because you were never worthy of being my opponent. You no longer have any power to hurt me." The final words rang out like a silent verdict. Savannah looked up, eyes shattered. For the first time in her life, she saw herself through someone else's eyes, and she didn't recognize who she was. Talia walked away, through a circle of students that now parted like the sea. No one laughed, no one clapped, but every eye that followed Talia now, for the first time, held respect. Savannah remained seated, alone, like a statue in the eye of a storm that had just passed. Jade and Chloe walked away without a word. Logan stared at his sister for a long moment, then silently turned his back. No one even bothered to look at Ryder anymore. No blood was spilled, no blow was needed. Talia Brooks had won. With dignity, with patience, and with a strength no gym could ever teach. The next morning, the halls of Westbridge Academy still gleamed, spotless, the bulletin boards still neatly in place. But something had changed completely. There were no more whispers when Talia walked into class, no more scrutinizing stares when she passed down the hallway, no orange juice trays waiting to be dumped on someone's shirt. Talia Brooks sat in her seat, quietly opened her book like she did every day. She wasn't seeking the spotlight. She didn't need applause. She only wanted peace. And finally, she had it. At the far end of the hallway, Savannah Kerrigan walked alone. No Jade, no Chloe. Logan avoided her. Ryder said nothing. Her reputation, once a castle built of sand, had washed away in a single afternoon. A few new students whispered to each other about what had happened the day before. But this time, the name they spoke wasn't Savannah's. That's Talia Brooks. She didn't throw a punch, but everyone knows she won. There was no medal handed to Talia, no announcement on the school bulletin, but the whole school knew. A new order had begun. Westbridge Academy no longer belonged to the privileged. It had begun to relearn respect, fairness, and the power of someone who dared to stand tall, without ever needing a fist. Some battles don't need a single punch. Some victories don't need an audience to cheer. And some people, like Talia Brooks, can make an entire school re-evaluate itself, with nothing but calm and self-respect. She didn't need to shout to be heard. She didn't need to strike back to prove her strength. She only needed to stay standing when everyone expected her to fall. Westbridge didn't change because of a fight. It changed because of a lesson, unspoken, but deep enough to reach everyone who witnessed it. If you've ever been underestimated, isolated, or dismissed just because you didn't fit in, remember this: you don't need to be like them. You only need to never lose yourself. This isn't just Talia's story. It's the story of all of us, the ones who were once seen as outsiders, but in the end became the ones the world had to listen to. Leave a comment if you've ever felt like Talia. Like if you believe in the power of inner strength. Subscribe so you don't miss the next inspiring story. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.